In this video, we're going to do a long-term review of the Giant Contend AR. I've owned the Giant Contend AR for a year now and absolutely love the bike. And the reason why I went with this bike is because, one, it was cheap, and it was a bike that was pretty aggressive, and I knew I could upgrade the components. I used it stock for about a week, then I upgraded to SRAM 22 group set, and it was amazing. And I really got it so it could compete with bikes that are 6 times the cost. This is the reason why I love this bike, and it checked all the boxes for me. All right, it had threaded bottom bracket, it had through axles, it was cheap, it had clearance for 40C tires, it had aggressive geometry compared to many gravel bikes. And did I mention it was cheap? So I swapped the stock Shimano 105 group set over to a SRAM 22 mechanical group set. Also switched out the wheels to some generic Chinese carbon wheels with some Novatec hubs. And the weight went from about 21 pounds down to around 17.5 pounds. I was honestly blown away with how well the bike rode. Before, I was riding a Salsa War Road, and that bike really kind of let me down. I was really expecting that bike to do all the things the Giant Contend AR had done before. But the Giant Contend did everything that the War Road was supposed to do, but better, and it was about 3 times cheaper. So we have great group rides here in the Blackwater Forest area every Saturday, and you know, obviously everyone shows up because it's a road ride, and everyone shows up with their aero bikes, their road bikes. And with the Contend AR, I really didn't feel like I was missing out by riding, you know, somewhat of a gravel bike with the group ride. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as fast as your pure aero road bike that's out there. But I was able to get into a pretty good position where I was able to tuck behind people. Remember, the bottom bracket's low. It's about 10 millimeter lower than a normal road bike. So I felt like I was able to get behind other riders and actually get a decent draft and get a break before I had to start pulling again. But never did I feel like the Contend was really holding me back on those road rides, which a lot of gravel bikes do. I did 4 gravel events with the Giant Contend AR, and in those events I finished 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 5th. Now, I'm no professional racer or anything like that, but I was very happy with those results, especially on a bike that many people do not consider to be competitive on, you know, gravel races. But the bike did amazing in those races. I used the tire pressure really to dictate how the bike would feel. So obviously, if the terrain was really rough, I would just run lower pressures. If the terrain was going to be pretty smooth, then I would run higher pressure. And also the defused seat post helped out as well as dampening some of that impact. But on gravel, in my opinion, this is where the bike shines. Okay, so this is where the bike is probably the most limited, and that is due to the lower bottom bracket. I tried to keep up with 3-time national champion Stephen Hyde with this. Obviously, it doesn't matter what bike I would be on, I could not keep up with him. But the bike, it really has that low bottom bracket, so you have to deal with pedal strikes. If you're riding on a course that is not muddy and doesn't have a lot of ruts or anything, the bike will be fine with that. It's really when you ever get in those really bad conditions in those races, and you know, your tire sinks down really low, and that's going to cause that pedal to strike. And you know, compared to like a pure cyclocross bike, which will have around a 60 millimeter bottom bracket drop, this has an 80 millimeter bottom bracket drop. So this is 20 millimeter lower than your Giant TCX. So I have some super corrosive acidic sweat, and in the summertime I sweat all over my bike. And by the seat post area, actually I got some sweat in that area, and it caused the paint to actually bubble up a little bit, and it looks like the paint's trying to separate from the metal. Also down by the dropout area and the rear brake mount area, there's a little bit of paint damage there. Now that's not necessarily the bike's fault. I should have sprayed my bike off when I finished riding. Also, it would help if I didn't have corrosive sweat. That is one concern you want to look at if you have this bike. Now, once again, we mentioned this before, the lower bottom bracket is a concern for a lot of people. There's actually a video on YouTube of a rider riding his Contend AR going downhill really fast, and he clips his pedal and is thrown from his bike. And you know, that is a concern with this bike, especially if you're leaning over really far. Now, I feel like Giant probably should have spec'd this with a little bit larger tire. They're spec'd with a 32C tire. If they would have gone with like a 35C or even up to a 38C, that's going to bring that bottom bracket height a little higher. Now, that bottom bracket being low, I actually really like it for gravel, especially when you run those larger tires. You don't feel like you're sitting too high, and I also like it for road, as long as I'm not, you know, taking real sharp turns, because once again, I can get behind people and I can draft better. Now, if you have issues with this or concerns with this, once again, you could run larger tires. Also, you can run shorter crank arm lengths as well. So I actually run about a 170 millimeter crank arm length, and I run 32C tires. So I don't really have any issues with pedal strikes, but also I'm not doing any kind of crit racing. If I were to do crit racing, I would probably just run 38C slick tires. All right, those two issues are really the only two negatives I could find with the bike over using it for a year. Now I'm about to turn this bike into a rain bike. I'm gonna get some fenders on it, and I'll do a video on that soon, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with any of your friends, and comment, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you for watching.